All right, joining me now to cut through the BS of Biden's supposed Build Back Better policy is the correspondent for the Foundation of Economic Education, Brad Polumbo. Brad, welcome to Bernardi. You wrote a great article this week about everything that's wrong with Biden's spending bill, starting with the astronomical price tag. How is borrowing more money to implement this fully funded?
Well, it's not, but the president magically claims that if his bill doesn't add to the debt, which it does, but he says that it doesn't, and therefore it's free. That's kind of like saying that if I go to the grocery store and pay with cash instead of my debit card, then my groceries are free. It's not how math works or basic economics. And he's claiming that the spending is fully paid for because they raise taxes to pay for it and don't add to the national debt. But that's because they use budget gimmicks. So they're saying that this is a $1.75 trillion bill. But when you look at the spending provisions that they make temporary that are actually permanent, it really goes up to about $5 trillion. So the whole price tag on this thing is a lie. It's multiple times more expensive than they're claiming. And it's going to be taxpayers who feel that in their wallets.
Well, I mean, you can argue that raising taxes just takes, productive money out of the economy and gives it to governments. But didn't Biden promise that he wouldn't raise taxes on anyone earning under $400,000? But this bill does hit the hip pocket of lower income earners, isn't that right?
Yes, it does. So, for example, it raises billions in new taxes on smokers and nicotine product users, whether they're vapors or they smoke cigarettes, and most of those people earn far less than $400,000. So it shatters the pledge on that front, but also it just raises middle class taxes. The Tax Policy Center, which is actually a center left think tank here in the US, found that 20 to 30% of middle class households will see their taxes go up under this agenda, even though President Biden and his allies promised not to raise taxes on those earning less than $400,000. This is the thing about big government spending and the welfare state. They always say they're not going to come for you, they're just going to come for the rich. But it never actually works out that way. And what makes it even more hypocritical is that they actually included a special tax cut for the rich, for rich people only in Democrat states, into this bill. So they simultaneously are raising taxes on the working and middle class while including tax carve outs for wealthy people in blue states like California and New York.
It's just incredible. It's mind-boggling that they get away with it. And I tell you what else concerns people like me who like to see an adversarial parliament because it holds people to account. You had 13 Republicans who helped pass this bill. I mean, the grand old party was supposed to represent small government, fiscal responsibility, small business. How can these rhinos, Republicans in name only, be backing such a Democrat agenda?
Yeah, well, that's what the Republican Party is supposed to represent. But unfortunately, a lot of them, when they get down to Washington, they get lobbyists in their ear. They get the fawning CNN coverage when they do what Democrats want, and a lot of them sell out and go for big government and vote for massive spending. We've seen this over the years. Spending is a real problem when Republicans have power too. But there are a lot of Republicans who do stick consistent to these values, and I certainly appreciate the work that they're doing. It really is, unfortunately, the Democrats right now who are taking us this train off the tracks, and it's young people like me who are really going to be bearing the weight of this the rest of our lives. Trillions of dollars in new debt dragging down the economy, massive expansions of government where they're spending money, like you mentioned in your monologue, on things like a civilian climate corps, basically paying AOC and her friends and young people like them to do environmental activism instead of getting a real job, all at the taxpayer expense. I mean, they're going to redistribute massive amounts of wealth away from the productive private enterprise system we have here and into the pockets of politicians and bureaucrats to be wasted on Green New Deal-esque schemes that don't even reduce carbon emissions. Even the Democratic senators have admitted that the Civilian Climate Corps won't reduce emissions. It's just a little fun project for AOC, her pet dream. And I don't think that should have billions of taxpayer dollars allocated to it, but it's honestly par for the course for this entire Build Back agenda and its false promises.